From the seventh moon of thunder, we'll bring you lots of wonder. The Captain Fizz and Mask Guy Show. The Captain Fizz and Mask Guy Show.
I forced him to sing it yet again. Welcome to the Captain Fizz and Mask Guy Show. I am Captain Fizz.
Hola, mi amigo. And I am that Mask Guy.
Show me your green card.
Dude, how dare you? That's racist.
Not exactly. But it's not too often I get to say this, but we were right.
Potentially.
Shut up. Let me enjoy this moment, or potentially hate this moment.
You know, I don't think it's exactly something that either of us are overly happy about. Well, I think we're actually kind of upset about this.
Yes and no, because honestly, it could be potentially better for his career and better for us to not see this debacle, because this could possibly end the movie in the first place. To those who don't know, Channing Tatum has been talking about pulling out of Gambit, which, if you remember, we called it.
Well, we didn't necessarily call it, but we were starting to wonder because of how little that was actually going into it.
We called it.
Well, okay, I don't actually recall because I didn't actually go back to listen to our last episode.
I do fully remember us saying that they were doing everything. It seemed like they were doing everything in their power to prevent Channing Tatum from walking away.
Not necessarily, because, I mean, it seemed kind of weird, I mean, they were doing casting calls and stuff, but it was never really clear who they were trying to go for the characters.
They were doing just enough in hopes to prove to him that they were serious about this movie as much as he is, which he absolutely adores this character. He's wanted to be this character. He volunteered to be this character. It wasn't them coming to him. It was him going to them. So he did all this. So they're trying to prove as much as possible that they're actually as serious as he is. And obviously they're not.
Well, here's the thing. For those people who don't know, Channing Tatum has been talking about doing Gambit before Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out. I don't recall the name of the movie off the top of my head, but he and Jamie Foxx started the movie together. And at the time, Jamie Foxx was talking about playing Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And Channing Tatum took every opportunity during that interview to bring up the fact that he wanted to play Gambit. And he went as far as to do an imitation of the voice he felt.
Yes.
That would work for the character, a very Louisiana, Cajun, accent, if you will.
Which, I was excited to find out that Channing Tatum wanted to be Gambit. Not just because of him as an actor. It's the enthusiasm he brings to the character. It's the fact that he actually fully 100% wants to be that character, is committed to being that character, and doesn't want to see that character made fun of, made into a joke, or absolutely become despised because it's so poorly done. Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man again. Yes. I don't even know what to say. I've been kind of dubious about Gambit though for a while, just because even though he is a beloved character within the geekdom, known as X-Men fans, he isn't necessarily been a front runner. When people think about X-Men, they tend to think of characters like Wolverine.
Yes.
And even Storm and Professor Xavier. He's not, Gambit's not, tends to be one of those ones that stands out front.
No.
Even though he was probably one of the better characters.
And see, that's why I kind of was looking forward to the fact of them putting Gambit as a main character, as this hyped up thing. But it just didn't seem right that with all the hype that they were doing and everything else, especially that Channing Tatum himself was doing, that it just didn't seem to add up. The numbers did not make sense.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it just, like we said, it felt like they were just doing enough. But at the same time, we pretty much were questioning, was it enough? And at this point, you gotta start wondering. Now, here's the thing, from what we've read, I mean, Channing Tatum has not actually came out to say he is walking away. But this has been brought up by multiple different sources suggesting that he's leaving, but that the studio is going to continue on without him should he leave.
So basically, a movie that could potentially have been a 4 just became a 1.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this because, I've been so uneasy about it, since I ever first heard about this a couple months ago.
Yeah. See, Channing Tatum is one of those actors that he's not afraid to walk away from the table if you don't listen to what he has to say. And I don't fault him for that.
Well, no, I mean, it's obvious, he went off and he said that he hated doing G.I. Joe.
A lot of us hated watching G.I. Joe.
I happen to have thought that the G.I. Joe movies were okay. I actually hated the fact that they killed off Duke in the second movie. However, finding out how much Tatum hated, the movies and the role, I can understand why now.
It was not done to a good justice, and Channing Tatum's character was not done to a justice. It wasn't done right. It was pretty pathetic in the long run, and kill him off.
I honestly think that at some point we need to go off and we need to do a top 10 list, and you and I will do 2 separate lists on the same subject. Something along the lines of the best, top 10 comic book adaptations by yours truly, and then get you to do the worst top 10 list.
I am actually curious on where our top, our both versions of our top 10 and top worst.
Because I suspect that there are movies that I might think were really awesome that you would think were really lame.
Well, considering you liked the Spider-Man ones and I absolutely hated them, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, probably.
And the fact that you're liking Daredevil and I'm having issues staying awake from it because I watch it at, midnight.
Well, that's your own fault.
I have a very busy schedule.
You go off, you work like a dog all day long.
I do not. I never bark.
Okay, fine.
I do occasionally bite.
You work like a muted dog all day long.
Much better. I like muted dogs.
However, that's not even true because I've heard that you tend to bark a little bit at your coworkers.
Not exactly true. There was that one instance. It was a Tuesday, 1942.
Dude.
The sun never rose that day.
I'm telling you, we've got to get this on video, if for no other reason than just your facial expressions and just
every
your delivery.
time I do this weird, nonsensical story, my face turns into that of a Western. I don't understand the reasoning behind it. I can do accents without even understanding where they came from.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to get so mad you start swearing in German, despite the fact you don't know a word of German.
I have actually sworn in German. I will not ever swear in German again. Not on air. Not in public. There was that one time.
There was that time.
It was yesterday. The sun rose and then shot me. So, okay. If Channing Tatum pulls out, what happens?
I have no idea because I don't even know who they would go off to get to fill the role.
See, the better question is, do you see them spending as much money on the film as they are now if Channing Tatum pulls out?
You know what? I don't think so. Honestly, I think, because they've got obligation to do it now, they now have a date that, for the movie to come out, so they feel obligated to go off and put out the movie, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to put as much heart into it as if Tatum was in there pushing.
This would not be the first movie that they have canceled, before they even start, though. They have not once specifically said they have, the deadline set in stone. So, it hasn't actually officially been confirmed that they have to make this movie no matter what, 100%.
But here's the thing. They may
be an idiot.
They may go off and do this movie because there's a chance that if they do not do a Gambit movie, that they may somehow lose the rights to the Gambit character back to Marvel if they do not do it.
And see, I'm not against that idea. Because obviously they are proving one important fact, and that's they can't do nothing proper with it.
Well, it seems, as we go along, the more, I think every movie that has been done by studios other than Marvel, using Marvel characters ever since the first Iron Man movie has
bombed.
Has progressively gone worse and worse. I've stated this, I was a big fan of Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I was not thrilled with most of what they did with the source material. I thought, the Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy love stories in the movie was ultimately the only really good thing about the Amazing Spider-Man.
It still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to prove, and bring people back to watch it. Marvel.
That's because the second, they just absolutely sucked, and the fact that I cannot understand how they could have gone and the characters in those movies so bad. The Lizard in The Amazing Spider-Man sucked.
See,
and the Green Goblin and what they were planning for the Sinister Six sucked.
See, I stopped watching after the first one. The love story between Gwen and Peter Parker just did not seem right. No, from the beginning of the movie to the end, it just seemed off. And not just because I was a big fan of Mary Jane. Like, I was excited to see a different love interest, a different love story. But I just felt like they dropped the ball on it.
Well, the thing is, a lot of it, I'm going to argue, on that front. Because I thought it was really good. I thought that part and just the love story between them was really great. I hated the fact that, what took away from the love story was the way they tried to go off and completely reinvent, the Peter Parker Spider-Man, origin story, so that it couldn't be compared with the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire trilogy.
And this is why Sony is now working with Marvel.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You may not have heard this, but the plan is that they want to give this a sort of a John Hughes esque storyline. That is why they went off and brought in the writers of Vacation, because they wanted to do kind of like a John Hughes, much like a lot of the high school movies that he went off and did. Movies like The Breakfast Club and I think Pretty in Pink. I don't know. I don't know whether, but they're making a high school movie, so they want to make it high school-ish and have that kind of John Hughes, high school theme to it.
See, as much as I like that idea, you always got to prepare for that unknown moment, which in Sony's case is usually well known. The moment that the movie that they are putting out is nowhere near the movie idea that they had in their mind, and it tanks.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm kind of hesitant about all this. I like the suggestion because honestly, a John Hughes-esque, high school movie would fit really well with the Peter Parker Spider-Man character, because we're talking about a geeky character like Peter Parker's, really a geek who suddenly finds himself with superpowers. And so they could really play up the two sides of the character, Peter Parker being, the atypical geek, but then having Spider-Man being the cool, witty, character. And that's really what I want. I want a Spider-Man who's witty. See, I don't want this dark, brooding Spider-Man that Tobey Maguire did.
See, what I really want to see with Spider-Man, and it's basically what I grew up with, is the very angsty Spider-Man. Which, high school, very angsty. But at the same point, don't hide the genius.
No, absolutely.
Definitely, you need to show the genius side of Peter Parker front and center. It's who he was.
He needs to be a nerd.
Yeah.
Absolutely, he needs to be a nerd. And if they don't go off, and if they don't do that, it's going to fail.
And see, that's the problem they had in both versions of Spider-Man, is they tried to hide the genius.
Well, not so much in the second one. But not in the Amazing Spider-Man. They went off
still
and at
didn't
least
show it as much as they could have, or they should have.
I absolutely agree with that. One of the things that I